Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Kalanati. Today I'm going to review Autonomous by Annalee Newitz. This is a pharmaceutical science fiction novel that explores pharmaceutical drugs and patents, but also what it means to be a free person, human or robot. Autonomous begins when Jack discovers a stowaway on her submarine. Said stowaway is trying to steal her pirated drugs, so she kills him, and then she is saddled with his very poorly treated indentured slave 3Z. Then Jack learns about a drug epidemic caused by a work productivity drug that she had pirated and helped spread, and it's now causing people to work themselves to death. Jack would like to solve this problem and do that and then disappear again before the military agent Elias and his indentured robot partner can catch up with her. This novel is mostly told from Jack and Paladin's points of view. Jack is trying to contact her old connections from before she went to prison and became a pirate in order to make an antidote to this drug Zacuity. And while she's at it, she'd like to take down Zacuity's creator, the corporation Zaxi, because that fits with her history of fighting against pharmaceutical giants that want to patent the crap out of drugs so that sick people can't afford them. Paladin's side of the story is about a naive military robot going on its first mission while dealing with its human partner's sexual interest in it. Paladin is not autonomous, and it's slowly discovering the extent to which it has control over itself and is questioning whether it feels a certain way because that feeling is its own, or whether it feels that way because it was programmed or ordered to. And that's it. This book is about autonomy, which means independence, or perhaps more appropriate for this book, freedom of will and action, freedom to control one's own thoughts and desires. And the place in this book where this juxtaposition of autonomous versus not autonomous became most clear to me was surprisingly in this relationship between Elias and Paladin, the free human and the indentured robot. This was actually a very awkward and uncomfortable relationship, which also surprised me because I had gone into this expecting that this part of the story might be a bit of a cute human-robot love story, and it did not turn out to be that way at all for me. Wherever you have sufficiently humanoid robots, or any robots at all, frankly, you will invariably encounter the humans that want to have sex with them. And Newitz explores not only that, but also how the legal status of robots has impacted human rights, in that people can sell their children into slavery, where they can then be body modified or sold into the sex industry by the lowlifes in the world. And this part of the world about how the legal status of robots has led to a mirroring for human legal status was the most interesting part of the book that I wish it had spent more time on. I wanted to know the legal justification there, which basically says we've created these categories where we say robots can be indentured or not autonomous, but they can also achieve autonomy equivalent to human autonomy. Therefore, we're going to make slavery for even humans legal. That's problematic, and I want to know how that argument was presented and then put into action. Like, didn't people complain about that? It wasn't just enough to have the differences between Elias and Paladin at play in their relationship, which I'll talk about a bit more in a second. I wanted to know more about the humans' opinion of this. Jack talks about this system of indenturing people, which I just call slavery because I think that's what it is, but also about how her experience as an autonomous person who has always been able to work, who has never had to indenture herself or didn't have her parents sell her, basically. Like, how does she really view this system as a person of privilege versus how 3Z sees it? He's the formerly indentured man that she kind of takes under her wing. You get a bit of a peek at 3Z's history and therefore the terrible things that can happen to children and teenagers in a system that cannot prevent their abuse. But then it just seems dropped a little bit by the end. With Paladin and Elias, there are so many things going on between them. unequal power dynamics, indentured robot, autonomous human, unequal life experience, baby robot, older human. And then you have these issues of robot gender and sexuality and self-identity paired with a human who's a bit clueless about all of this, who's trying to force the robot into perhaps inappropriate human categories of gender and sexuality so that he feels more comfortable and can avoid, frankly, homophobic self-hatred. Yeah. Like I said, this made me think much more beyond my initial assumption about what this relationship would be like, and really presents the problematic nature of it while not being horrible. And I think it's one of the most interesting parts of the book to talk about, aside from, well, the pharmaceutical drug ethics. I enjoyed a lot about this novel, actually. I really liked hearing Jack's history, which is essentially the history of this anti-drug patent movement that she got involved with in college. I thought it was really cool to see what science has achieved in this world, both good and bad. And it's also really interesting that this focuses on the pharmaceutical industry, because the issues it's talking about with drug patents and large drug corporations licensing and patenting everything is an issue that our world actually faces today, and that I haven't read that much about before. This story also moved very briskly. Characters are literally moving fast, the hunters and the hunted, and so there's this real ticking clock in the background giving the story urgency. And I think it might be that brisk pace and the relative shortness of the novel that makes it feel like it's skimping on something that I haven't quite pinpointed. I think it might be that the story is so fast and it keeps throwing out all these really interesting issues at the reader, but it never really pauses and slows down to give time to reflect on the issues, to chew on them during the story. Nevertheless, I would love to read more by Annalee Newitz in the future. I think this was a really strong novel, and I would love to read more science fiction like this. I love space opera and hard science fiction that takes place on alien worlds, on spaceships in deep space, and very alien environments, but sometimes I think it's really nice to pull back and focus very deeply on an issue in the near future on Earth that I can really relate to with what's going on in the world around me. Those are my thoughts on Autonomous by Annalee Newitz. I would definitely recommend this for fans of Cory Doctorow's work. It's been a little while since I've read any of his novels, but I feel like there's a similarity between like the style or the vibe of this book and the issues discussed with the technological issues and topics that Doctorow writes about and then incorporates into his fiction. So, if you have read this book, or if you want to, please leave me your comments down below, and also any recommendations for books that are similar. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back to talk to you again soon, and until then, bye.